There's quite an extensive collection that Gene brought in, and he's here to discuss it with us today. So it's all yours, Gene. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
It's always a little intimidating to stand up in front of people who know more about some of the subjects than you do. But it's always a learning experience, because every time you say something and you make a mistake, you find out about it. I purposely didn't bring everything because I got tired. And one of the things that you'll be hearing about is from Buddy Lane about garages and transportation in North Brookfield. It was always amazing to me that you could buy about 5 or 6 different types of cars in North Brookfield at one time, and every one of those dealerships contributed to the history of North Brookfield, the paper history, effeminate, by giving out free brochures and free attractions about the cars. And there's a huge amount of that information and that stuff out there. But I'll be talking about my collection. I've been a collector all my life, to my mother's consternation when I was younger, and to my wife's consternation now. And the difference between a collector and a dealer is that dealers, things pass through their hands. Like, for instance, I'm sure like Bob Potvin recognizes some of the stuff that's here because it passed through his hands at one time or another. And collectors don't let go. When I was a kid, I started collecting little toy soldiers and the baseball cards. I had an extensive baseball card collection, and then I left home for a slight period of time, and my mother donated my baseball card collection to the Boys Club in Barrie, along with Hardy Boys books and everything else I had. I could never figure out how she felt the baseball card collection was going to do the Boys Club any good, but that's where it went. And someday somebody's going to write a book about mothers and baseball cards collections, because there's an abundance of stuff, material, and stories to tell about that. But I started collecting a lot of things as a young man. I started collecting coins. My grandparents gave me a coin collection and another stamp collection. I was into stamps and coins quite heavily, and then I moved to North Brookfield. I became very good friends when I lived in Barrie with Jim Murphy, who had a huge, absolutely amazing coin collection. And we became quite friendly, and we would meet at Caruso's on Friday nights and talk about coins. And when I moved to North Brookfield, within 6 months, the coins and the stamps were stolen. Somebody in Paxton lost some, somebody in Munson lost some, and I lost some. And of course, coins and stamps are very easy to fence, and so there's little chance, if they didn't catch anybody red-handed, that you could recognize. Once the collection was split up, it was difficult to recognize when you found it, if you ever did find it, recognize and identify it as yours. So the result of that was I started collecting postcards that I had around from different places where you bought stamps and coins, and you ended up with postcards with it. And postcards at the time were just junk. But I started saving them. And you could pick them up for $1 and 35 cents. I remember Dot Sandman, who was collecting postcards, would go absolutely spastic if she saw a card for $1. And she said, I'll never pay that, I'll never pay that. Today you don't get anything for anywhere near that low figure. But I started, and that's how we got into postcards. And with postcards came the rest of this stuff, stuff that you absolutely felt you had to have. It became evident to me as a teacher, as a history teacher, as I got along teaching history, that one of the things the kids liked was the stuff that you brought in about their town. And I thought maybe tonight I'd just do a show and tell, just to let you know. One of the things that always grabbed kids was Connie Mack. If you wanted to get their attention, all you had to do was tell them that Connie Mack lived in East Brookfield, played his ball in North Brookfield, and that you could list off a whole mess of people that could describe Connie Mack. And the Connie Mack day when he came to North Brookfield, and Judge M. Cohen is another story. The kids would listen to that. And they'd go home and talk to their parents and grandparents, and they'd come back with information. And that information would help just create more of a story as it went along. Connie Mack Day was our big day in July. And when they asked Judge M. Cohen to be Master of Ceremonies, he came out, he was so impressed with the way North Brookfield reacted to Connie Mack. And incidentally, Connie Mack brought his world-famous athletics. Connie Mack did what the Boston Red Sox and Patriots are doing now. After he won the championship, he started to sell off all his players. So Connie Mack, though, before he sold them off, he came to North Brookfield, played the local Amatreds. And when you tell the kids, and when I told the kids in school that the Amatreds won, they say, nah. I said, they won. And you pull out the scorecard and you tell them about it, show them some newspaper clippings, and they're amazed, they're hooked. That helps. But anyway, Judge M. Cohen was so impressed that he offered to bring his Broadway show to North Brookfield. And so we had, right in Town Hall, Broadway show put on. And that's impressive enough. Impressive enough. I didn't bring Judge M. Cohen stuff because Judge M. Cohen is a collectible unto himself. All his music, the father of Broadway. I almost got killed on a trip to New York once trying to take a picture of the statue on 42nd Street, Times Square, of Judge M. Cohen. And of course, try to do it and try to keep his head in perspective. And while you're doing that, there are taxis that take profound humor in trying to knock you off. So it was quite a feat, and I never did get a real good picture. But he's all to himself, Judge M. Cohen, as is Connie Mack. Right now, you can get Connie Mack material, bring it to Philadelphia, and sell it to people in Philadelphia for 10, 15 times what you pay for it around here. And around here is a good market for it. So that's how it got in. I found out that history, and of course, being a history teacher, which was my father's consternation that his son would grow up and be a teacher, and a history teacher, oh my God, the world was coming to him. The only thing you could possibly want to do in life was to be a mathematician or an engineer. And the history teachers don't even bother coming into the house. It took some time for him to get used to that, but he did. So I thought tonight I'd just do the show and tell. What happens when you collect things is that people ask you questions, and the first question they ask you is, where'd you got it? Where'd you get that? And you can tell them anything, but I usually tell them straight out where I got it. I bought it at an auction. I bought it from an individual. Somebody gave it to me. All different places, but they're always interested in where'd you get it. And I always remember when I collected political buttons for a little time. I collected political buttons. I collected Coca-Cola. I collected all that stuff. And the Coca-Cola collection went to help finance 1 year of college. Political buttons went and financed something else. The Barry collection I had at one time went and financed the bathroom that we have upstairs. We call it Barry room. These collections all, but getting back to where'd you get it? When I was collecting the political buttons, I was showing the kids some buttons, and I told them about the valuable ones. And one of the classy ones is Lincoln and Hamlin from the Civil War era. And when they put two people on the head of the button, it's called a Jewgate. And I was talking about it, and I explained it and told them that it was a very valuable button. The next day, the very next day, in comes a kid, reaches into his pocket, right here in North Brookfield, and pulls it out and says, look at this. And my eyes popped, because the only place you can see those things is Smithsonian or the University of Hartford. Very rarely, and here's a great piece right here in North Brookfield. So you never know where you're going to find this stuff. It pops up at some of the weirdest places from some of the weirdest unexpected people. So you never know where you're going to find it. The second question is, what you pay for it? How much did it cost? And everybody's interested in how much it cost. Well, some of this stuff here, I don't divulge how much it cost for a very good reason. My wife's right here in the front row, and she doesn't need to know. She's underneath to know what comes into the house, but she doesn't necessarily need to know how much it costs. But that's what they ask. How much do you pay for it? And so you can tell them, and it can be a shock. Just recently, I don't know if you see this card. This card is I don't know if you can see it or not. If you can recognize this card, this is the Potter House, right down the street here on South Main Street. This house, a lady collected these houses. She collected this house, and she collected a house in West Brookfield and one other, and tore them down and brought them to Springfield and erected them on the Eastern States grounds. You can still go through this house. But anyway, this card was $32. Not a bad investment on someone who paid a penny for the stamp some years ago. So if you could get a return on that, that's almost like buying Tell stock a few years ago. But that was $32. Now, there are people who will say to you, you're crazy. One of them right here. You're crazy. But then there are other people that would say, oh gee, you got it, and it's in good shape. And of course, the condition of anything you collect is so important. It's in good shape. It'll replace the one I have, and then the one I have I'll either trade or do something with it. And that's part of the fun of collecting. I mean, you can improve what you have. And condition is so important. There's a young fellow from New Braintree that was collecting cards, and we were at an auction in West Brookfield that Bob Poppin was running. And he bought a card, and he paid $60 for it. And he kept saying to me afterwards, he says, oh, do you think I paid too much for it? And I says, you got the card? You like the card? You want the card? Don't worry about it. If you had the $60 in your pocket, it's yours. And I said, it's not going to go down in value. And I've seen him since, and I keep saying, you know, did you get stuck on that card? And he's a little conservative, so he's still starting to wonder if he was or not, but he's starting to appreciate the fact that he's got it more. So let me put that down. But having said that about conditions, one of the things I'm proud of is this is I've got a number of histories of North Brookfield. This one here hardly ever comes out of the box because it's, number one, it's in a box, which is unusual. And number two, it's in pristine shape. Now, the history of North Brookfield, for people who collect North Brookfield stuff, this is a beautiful edition, this is a beautiful book. And histories, town histories, are very, very collectible. And they're very difficult to get. That's why they're reprinting them. And some people will say, well, if they reprint them, then the originals lose their value. No, I don't think so. I disagree with that, because if they're reprinting them, it means more and more people have them. And the ones like this one in good condition, excuse me, I think appreciate value. This one here has the map in it, and the map is pristine. Everything about it is in excellent shape. So I keep it, and I don't use it, and I just show it. And I use the other ones I have to pursue. And having said that, excuse my back for a minute. Some people say that's my best side. This is a map of that you find in the town report. And in the town report, or the town history rather, excuse me, not the report. In the town history, one of the first problems you have is that the map is so fragile that it rips. And in the way it's folded, you've got to be extremely dexterous to get it out and not rip it. The paper's very thin. Here's a map of the early land grants that you find. There's a booklet that goes with it. I didn't bring the booklet tonight. And it shows the early land grants, and it's a beautiful map of North Brookfield. And while we're talking about maps of North Brookfield, probably the two best pieces in my collection are the Bonham Nye map, the earliest map of North Brookfield, 1830, in which there were a lot made. I can't find, if anybody could tell me how many were made. It's interesting to look at them because they were hand colored, and you see the difference in the colors from map to map. This one came out, the person who owned it before Bob Potvin sold it was Dave Varney. And I don't know where he got it. Do you know where he got it? He had it for a lot of years, and I was fortunate enough to get it. It needs to be improved on. It needs to be taken care of. There are some tape marks on it, and I don't dare open it up, because once you open it up, then you have to really have it done and done well. Early maps like this, by themselves, are valuable. In a collection of like this with North Brookfield, they may stand alone, they may not, depends. But I think it's one of the best pieces that I have in my collection of North Brookfield. And the other one is the bird's eye view of North Brookfield. And these come in a little bit of variation. I've seen, I said I saw another one. I've seen two that I know of. And the variation is a little bit different in them. But there are a lot of these different towns, bird's eye views, around on the market. And they're all very expensive. And they're highly collectible. And I was fortunate to be able to get this one. And the thing that amazes me about this, and this hung in my classroom for quite a few years, and I was always amazed that the kids would go to that one more than any. And what impressed me about it was that on any given day, kids would come in, and they wouldn't be every day. But you'd go in and on quite a few occasions during a month, you'd see your kids looking at it, and they're looking for their house, and they're trying to figure out how their house fits into perspective. And then the question would be asked, so how do they do that? And I said, I'm not really sure how they did it, but it's quite an art to be able to draw the perspective the way they did, recognizing that they didn't have a helicopter to go up in. I mean, Johnny Murphy couldn't jump in his little ultra, I can go up there with a camera and take those pictures, and they're very accurate. And that's a highly prized one in my mind. And of course, then they have all kinds of maps. This one here, I had a little bit of humor. This is the North Brookfield water tower. This is getting a lot of publicity lately, and Bates' Grove. That's, you all know what Bates' Grove is, right? I mean, half the town was conceived up there in Bates. And it was put on both sides. Now, the town obtained one of these just recently, and they spent quite a bit of money separating the two maps from the cardboard back. Well, the cardboard back is the way they issued this thing. If you see them alone, and it's nice that they do that, because actually when you separate them and you put them in a map and you see them alone, it's a lot easier than flipping them around and all that stuff. But that's not the way they were originally issued, unless you've got maybe one of the 10 that were issued separately. They are out there, but by and large, they were issued like this. And this is where the claim is that on a clear day you could see Boston and the ships in the harbor. I see Dr. Grace was talking about that the other day. Did you ever see Boston? No, it wasn't clear enough. But there are claims that you can see it. There is a law in the general court saying that one town, one municipality cannot make money off other municipalities. And it's designed because of North Brookfield. North Brookfield took a look at the topography of the area and realized they had a very high altitude, and they could pump water up to the reservoir, what we call the reservoir, and then let gravity take it, and they could sell that water to the Brookfields and to Warren. And they could make enough money to pay for their own water. Well, the word got out, and the people in Boston said, oh, no, that's not right. Why should we allow you to do that? We'd like to be able to do it. And so they couldn't do it, so they stopped. And of course, Bates, very wealthy, very influential person, was responsible for Bates Grove up there, and a lot that went on with the water in North Brookfield, which incidentally we're very fortunate that we have good water, which leads me to, should I go that way or go back to maps? Back to water. The Quabog Spring Water Company. We all have heard about Poland water. Poland's all over the place. One of their chief competitors back at the turn of the century was Quabog. If you want to have some fun, listen to the many ways that this is pronounced. Just recently with the Quabog girls doing so well in the state finals, winning the state finals, the TV reporters were having a ball trying to get their tongue around this. So we have Quabog spring water. Poland Springs, one of their chief competitors. And it was right over here on Bates Street, where the Winden, that's behind the Winden, the old Winden farm, where the spring was. And it was sold right up until 1960s, I think it was. Yeah, it was still selling water. The quality of the water deteriorated, I'm told, and they claimed that it deteriorated when the aquifer was disrupted because of the building of the Cleven chute. They were blasting, and I guess that some people claim that the the blasting caused the aquifer to be disrupted, and that caused the quality of the water to go down. I don't know, nobody's tested it, so it could be any number of reasons, but it sounds plausible. And Quabog spring water with the Indian, I have all kinds of stuff, pamphlets and advertising, and it was a big deal. I've got I've got a stand that tips the 5-gallon bottle over to pour the water at a bar or something like that. It was just, you only can bring so much. And so Quabog spring water in North Brookfield was a big deal, and still highly collectible. This is, I keep threatening that I'm going to turn this into a end table. Probably it'll be an end table when I'm ended up somewhere. But anyway, you can make it without destroying the value of it by Mickey Mousing it. You can just put a top on it and let it go. But Quabog spring water, great company. Well, I'm on it. In the postcard business, which I know a little bit more about than a lot of the other things I collect, the postcards, the technology for postcards was held by the Germans. The Germans possessed the printing technology that allowed postcards to be printed cheaply. They also learned how to use the colors for postcards. So before the war, you saw these amazing postcards of high quality, high pictures, and they were, when you look in the back and you see printed in Germany. When the war came about, the First World War, the United States had a moratorium on buying things from Germany, and you could see that the cards, deterioration of the quality of the cards right after that. Now, the Germans would print this, but what the Germans couldn't do was figure out Indian names. And they didn't know what to do with Indians. Indians were just, you saw them in the rodeo show. My father, as a young kid, one of the things he told me was he can remember going to a Wild West show in Germany. And the Wild West show was there, and they had it in a rodeo-like atmosphere. I don't know, he never described the where, but it was probably like a polo grounds or a racetrack of some kind. And they saw the Indians. That's who they were all impressed with. Well, when the First World War broke out, my grandfather was captured by his brother-in-law's outfit, half French, half German. That's why I'm here. And my grandmother was interned in a camp, and my grandfather was in a prison camp, and my father was interned in a camp too. And when the Americans were coming, the kids all ran out of the camp because the Germans hightailed it. Kids all ran out of the camps because they were anxious to see the Indians, because all Americans were Indians as far as they were concerned. The German propaganda machine didn't tell them that America was a fairly industrialized country and that it was fairly civilized. They didn't know that. They were Indians. So they run out, and here comes the soldiers. And my father says they were very disappointed because they were Englishmen. And then they really got perplexed when the Englishman was speaking French. And because my father grew up in a bilingual atmosphere, he could tell they were French, but it was a weird French. It was French Canadians. And as luck would have it, the French Canadians were from the 26th Yankee Division, which this group was out of Southbridge. But that's the idea that foreigners had about America. They were Indians. So when it came time to pronouncing or spelling, and of course being German, when you get a word like that, and somebody tells you in a communication it's Quabog, then you say, well, it can't be spelled like that. So they would put their own spelling on there, and of course the card would come back to the United States and it wouldn't be spelled the way it went over. So we have all of these different variations on there. People said, no, why would they do that? It's because got lost in the translation. All right, we go from maps. I have to tell you about this type of map in North Brookfield. These come out of atlases. I've got another one around here somewhere.
Straight back.
Yeah, there's another one. And, oh, well, anyway, they come out of atlases. One of them is the Beers Atlas. And Beers Atlas was of Worcester County. They have all different town maps. And what happens is dealers would buy the maps, buy the atlas, and realize they could sell the individual maps more than they could sell the atlas. So they'd buy an atlas and then cut out all the maps and just put them in plastic or frame them and make a fairly good profit out of selling them. Now it's difficult to find a Beers Atlas around. If you're looking for one in Worcester County, finding one in good condition is very difficult. So when you see this type of map, excuse me, they're becoming more and more rare because they've been chopped up so much. This thing here, I'll get out of the way, explain it. These are the woodcuts that come out of the prospectus that was issued prior to the publication of the town history. And if you get those little prospectus, I've got one, and I didn't bring that either, because I've got boxes and boxes of stuff, and I don't really know where it is, but it's there somewhere. And I'm sure you've all seen them, or many of you have seen them. The prospectus had these woodcuts in, and they're also in the town history. So I had one that was in dilapidated condition, so I took it out and just threw these in. I'll probably go right down the line now. It's a lot easier. Advertisement, card table. These are really a mirror onto the type of businesses that were involved in North Brookfield back in the 30s and 40s. Back then, whist parties were big. Dr. Grace's sister used to run whist parties, and they were well attended, and someone came up with the idea of advertising. So Bill used to ask me which church put these on. I really don't know that, but it was a good way of, huh? This church here? Ah, oh. Gee, this probably speaks. But that, newspapers are always great, especially when newspapers, here's the problem if you don't get good archival material. I thought when I first started doing this and I hung it up on the wall in the school that I was doing a good job. This is what light does to if you don't get the right kind of plastic. I thought I had the right kind of plastic. It isn't the right kind of plastic. You can see how it affects it. But this is the North Brookfield during the Second World War, and a community club, always interested. The Brookfield Union, but he says they used to call it Brookfield Onion. This is 1919, First World War. You know, that was goes back, and that's always interesting to read that and read the ads. Let me get behind here, then I'll come around the front. There's a lot of these around. Be surprised where you find these. You usually find them in, if you can't find them in the town area, you find them in the music area. A lot of George M. Cohan material, a lot of sheet music, you find these there. Also within the movie, I got a slew of Star Theater material that I haven't framed and haven't protected yet. Some of them are a little bit moth-eaten. But that's always fun to collect. The school newspaper. Now, this always impressed me. I got 4 copies of the first 4 editions of the school newspaper. Now, let me read you the date on this. October 1886. That is the newspaper put out by the North Brookfield High School. Now, it begs a question, because the newspapers at the time weren't anywhere near as well and polished as this. So you start to wonder, how did the North Brookfield High School afford to print a paper? So you look and see who's on the editors, and it says, Amasa Walker. Gee, a bachelor. Oh, so these kids are going to North Brookfield public schools, and Daddy's taking care of any little interest that they want. So that's why they were so well done. And of course, the ads were put in there just like any paper, and they did it. So it's always interesting. The kids will always ask you, how come they could do that? And I said, well, read the names, and the names will tell you. Good way to show cards, if you have cards you want to show them. Advertising, one of the interesting things that you have, besides pens and ashtrays, incidentally, are going to be quite a savings, quite a collectible now that nobody smokes anymore, especially not in houses. What are people going to do with all those ashtrays? The generic ashtrays that you see are just going to get tossed out, but the ones with the printing and stuff, people are going to start saving. Well, the yardsticks were handed out. The latest one is Joe DeRoy, but here's some earlier one, Wilson, and Quigley was not too long ago. One of the great advertising trade cards. You can get into trade cards. They were kind of a spin-off from people who collected postcards. These were just handed out advertising electric ranges, shoes, and they had pretty pictures on the front, colorful pictures. And because the technology was such that the colors were coming in, and people were impressed with colors as they're being printed. So these trade cards were brought in, and there's many different trade cards, and they show the businesses that you have involved at the time. I don't have, and I don't have, and mostly because I don't want to get in there, is one of the collectible things that is skyrocketing now is milk bottles. Milk bottles are going for crazy prices. Now, I'm told that there were 3 farms that had milk bottles in North Brookfield. Elmstead, of course, Elm Farm, and there's 1 or 2 others that are out there. People are paying ridiculous prices for those things. So if you see North Brookfield on any milk bottles, put it in the safety deposit box. It's worth a few dollars. This is one of my favorites. Boy, this tells you a lot. This is a Caille shoe. Now, it's original, and I got this from Larry DeLue gave it to me before he died, and he said, tell a story to the kids. Of course, you all are familiar with the fact that Caille was manufacturing these cheap Brogan shoes for the slave market. And there's all kinds of letters back and forth from the Bachelor shoe, from Bachelor to North Brookfield, from his customers in the South to North Brookfield, saying, you better keep your nose out of our business and don't go too crazy with this anti-slavery business, and otherwise we won't buy these shoes. The slaves used to get one pair of shoes a year, and the slave would get the shoes in the fall, and they'd wear them in the winter, and then when summer came, they didn't need shoes. And so Bachelor was selling all of these Brogan shoes to the slave market, and they're going back and forth, back and forth. Well, you get into it, Bachelor was responsible for organizing the buy it to slaves and send them to Liberia movement. The president of Liberia was in Washington the other day, and nobody mentioned the fact that, I guess they mentioned, but nobody mentioned much about the fact that it was founded by American slaves. And nothing in any of the local papers about any of the industries that helped buy some of those slaves to send them over. And of course, nothing in North Brookfield about the Bachelors who were leading proponents of that. Buy them up and ship them back, and then suddenly realized they had more slaves than they had money, and they couldn't do that forever. So the war broke out anyway, so that answered that question. So they started selling these shoes to the Army. And of course the Army said, we're not going to buy these shoes unless you test them. And this one was a sample, and you could see where they were testing the thickness of the leather by putting a little hole in it. And you can see the hand. This was a typical shoe, size 8, so they had small feet at those times. And hand stitched and hand nail on the heels. And they make these now again for the Civil War enactors, and they use the same pattern that they do here, and they sell them for $120 a pair. So, how much time we got here? Porcelain. I got a few more pieces of porcelain. Porcelain doesn't travel well, so I didn't take too many of them. Porcelain is another one like the postcards. It was souvenir. People put their names on things for either souvenirs to prove that you went someplace and you come back. You know, today it's all I got was this lousy T-shirt, and at the turn of the century they bring you back some cups or something, I believe. Well, you look at the bottom of these, and it's porcelain. It's made in Dresden most of the time, Dresden, Germany. And the reason being is that, again, the Germans possessed the technology for porcelain. They had all grades of porcelain. This is cheap porcelain. But they also learned how to put decals on porcelain and coat it over. They have a big, long name in Germany for it. Decalcum, whatever it is, and that's the process. And they could do it cheaply. And if you look at the bottom of this, a guy by the name of Desplaines in Brookfield, Desplaines store, from Forest Street, he would buy all his stuff and sell it. So you find little cups like this, and you have pitchers and sugar and creamers and cups and sauces, and all Dresden China. Cheap Dresden China, but Dresden China. And again, the First World War knocked all that out. Plates. You know, it's cute little plates. Miss Kiss and Makeup. I don't know if that could pass the 1918 censor, but doesn't say, and all I got was, I visited North Brookfield and all I got was this lousy plate. So you have plates. Now that continues. We have the anniversary plate from from 175th anniversary, and I remember Connie Richardson, when she was alive, lobbied long and hard for sandwich glass cup plates. This is a big collectible. They have them all over southeastern Massachusetts. I remember one young lady asked me, "What do you need a cup plate for? What's this? You know, you got sauces." I said, "No, this is where they pour their tea for it to cool." "Oh, gross." So they hung them in their windows instead. But cup plates, that's from our anniversary. And of course the mugs, big collectible. Everybody scoffs at them now, but down the road, those are going to be collectible. We have here's some history, all the different bottles from Hammett, Reed, all the drugstores in town, Pratt, Hammett, Reed. We always had a lot of businesses. I have some directories that show businesses in town. You could buy almost anything in them. You could buy jewelry, you could buy shoes, 3 or 4 places, clothing, of course, cars. Pretty much what you needed to buy at the turn of the century, you could buy in North Brookfield. We have the soda company, Oscar's, right over here on Central Street. This church steeple is the foundation for Oscar's soda shop, manufacturing. Because when the steeple came down, granite never left town. It went right up there on Forest Street and Central Street. It's right there. And, the reason why people put their names on bottles is they wanted them back. That's another reason for putting your name on things, is you either want to give it away as advertisement, or you give it away and you want it back. Milk bottles, you want them back so you can clean them out and fill them up again. Same way with soda bottles. And Oscar was around, different colors of bottles, different types of bottles. I haven't seen many of these. It's a newer one, but there are not many of them. Some of the older ones, different types. Some of them are purple. So we have quite a bit. After the when the war started, World War I started, and they wanted to still have souvenirs. The ruby tipped glass came in. Des Plaines couldn't get his plates and his porcelain anymore from Germany, so he started finding places where he could get this type of glass. Darrell Hyder helped me with this a few years ago. This is the plate that was used to print the first invitation to the first Fireman's Ball. And Darrell printed a few for me. Then we have the whimsical souvenirs that came out, Pike. And of course, this is one of, how many of you have seen these? The spoons, and then the heel, North Brookfield, they have the church, Congregational Church Library, Town Hall. Have any of you seen these? Nobody's seen these?
Seen them further down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is North Brookfield. I'd never seen them either, until somebody saw them for me and said, guess what I got? And what have you got? I got 5 spoons in North Brookfield, silver, and they're all different. So I says, yeah, well, how much you want for them? Well, I don't know. Well, give me a price. So he gave me a price. I coughed for quite a while. And I said, now how am I going to rationalize that? But anyway, I got them. And I haven't seen any others like it. So, like that picture over there, I got them, and I'm happy I got them, and I don't know if someday what we'll do with that, but that, they, let's see, there's the town hall, and the church across the street, the school. Oh, while we're at it with the school, I want to, here's another thing that Make from Ware, he published these little picture books. And of Brookfield, Warren, and they're 75, 1875, and they're beautiful, beautiful pictures. I mean, photography is being accepted, and so they're taking the pictures and describing them. But I just want to show you the fun you can have with this. When you get into it. We just built a new school, new high school, beautiful new high school. Replaced the one that I taught in for 37 years. And I'm starting to feel funny because every place I worked in a Barry Well, they ripped that down. I worked in North Brookfield High School, they ripped that down. I'm starting to say, well, something's behind. But when you start to study the schools in North Brookfield, you're saying, well, the original Grove School, the Grove School, was built on School Street. And they built the original one floor, and then they felt that they needed more room, so they jacked the thing up and built another level underneath it. That became outdated, so they said, well, we got to build a new school. So they built the new school on Grove Street. So we have the old school on School Street, the new school on Grove Street, and this is what it looked like. It's not what we look at today when we think of the Grove Street School. Then they had a big discussion about building an addition. And if you want to read, and you got to read between the lines, the discussion they had in North Brookfield about building an addition onto this building was phenomenal. And it was a little bit of the same guys that wrote that paper got the school addition. They built it. It was a beautiful school, and they put the addition on it. But a lot of people will look at that and say, that's not the school. That's the school before the addition. And if you look at the school, standing to the right front, you can see how the addition was put on. Of course, then they needed another school, and they built the high school. I don't have the schematic of the high school, but they built the high school up where it was, and called the Grove Street School on Grove Street. The School Street School turned into the Highway Barn, and the boiler room is still there, back, if you want to go around the back. But that's what you see. And these pictures are phenomenal. They're great pictures. This is rather rare. There's not many of them around. I don't know how many were it's like postcards. People say, well, how many were made? And unless you have access to the printing of this to find out how many were actually cranked out, you don't know. And so, like postcards, the people who traveled were itinerants. So you'd have an itinerant photographer come up, take a picture of your business, or take a picture of, I just got this one. I knew it was not Brookfield. Couldn't figure out where. I've been riding around town. If you see me riding around town, you say, what the hell is he doing? And one of the things is I'm trying to find a house that looks like the picture. So I rode around and rode around and rode around, and finally it dawned on me, this is the bakery on St. John's and North Common Street. So, you know, how I'll confirm it is by running it under Joe McAvoy's nose and see if he can smell the bread from his relatives that ran the bakery. But, you know, that's what it is. And remember, you were asking me about, one of them was correct, the other one,
Right.
and they get lost. They burn down, or somebody renovates them, or does something to screw it up so you can't tell. But if you look, that's got a lot of chimneys on it, and of course that's the flues from the bakery. It makes a lot of sense after it all comes together. And while I'm reaching into my pocket, hold this up to the kids. Well, maybe not today. Maybe they 10 years ago, and they look at you and, ha ha, drug stuff. That's a spoon. It says North Brookfield in there. And it's before it became notorious for drug smuggling, sniffing, or whatever they call it. But that's cute, and it needs to, it's tarnished, but while I'm reaching into my pocket, there's also something else. Let's see. Because every once in a while you run across these things. I don't spend a lot of time, but I'm going to, checking button collections out. There are people who go absolutely bananas collecting buttons. You know anybody who collects buttons? Do you look them over?
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever found a Brookfield button? Not Brookfield?
No.
They're out there. This is one of them. Where Cook's Optical was the white overall company. And they made overalls. They made bib overalls. And they have the clasps that the bib was hooked onto the straps with J.A. White on it. And I've seen those. The people that have them right now, A, don't want to sell them, B, want more than I could ever afford for them. But I did find a Brookfield button. And if you look real close, and I can't see it anymore, but it says A.H. White on it. And Jack Crusoe found the whole coat, I guess, and he donated it to the Historical Society. So the coat's up there, and it's got these buttons on it, I think. But that's a white. And I'm told, too, that there are more buttons. What else do we got? I'm getting a little long-winded here. You find all kinds of stuff. I always thought this was kind of cute. I kept track of the women in 1937. Doesn't say anything about women, men, but it says women listed. And that's kind of late for that kind of stuff, incidentally. And of course, Dr. Snell's Historical Discourse. Reverend Libby is hot on Reverend Snell's longevity record. that's coming up. But Snell was a heavy hitter. I came across these. I got to tell you about this because some of you may know where you can locate this stuff. Because this is the bachelor house located between Aubuchon's and the VFW, the Grace Building was, and this was a speakeasy and among other things, a big hotel, and they had plates, and there are plates available. People have plates. I've seen them, cups, plates from the bachelor, and you can see in the perspective it was quite a big place. I got these out of a book. The book was so deteriorated that it was beyond saving, but the sketches inside were easily saved. Bachelor house, Cook's house, where McGrail lives today. Another bachelor house where the asbestos was. It's now just a parking lot. Where Timmy Batchelor lives. So, you know, they did a pretty good job. I like this. Talking about George M. Cohan. This was North Brookfield. Lamson and Hubbard, A.K. Peacock, North Brookfield. Would be got to be careful of these things here. That's whoever had it and stored it, the rats got into it. Oh, what else have I got here? I got to bring this just to show you. It's the Walker Brothers. That's a picture from the 175th anniversary. And I got to show you this because it's not North Brookfield, it's Brookfield. This is a Brookfield Bible. And besides the dictionaries, they printed Bibles. And these are, I hear from different people that they're common, and then I hear that they're not common. This is 1814, and I got another one that's 1806. I just wanted to alert you to the fact that they're still out there, and you find them in weird places. Brookfield Bible. It looks a little bigger. Maybe they got more words in it. Well, that's pretty much, if I open it up to questions now, if you have any questions.
There's a fish rod company that made fish rods in North Brookfield.
Yeah, I don't know where, I've heard that.
Jay Fagno has
A fish rod?
a fish rod from North Brookfield.
How come you haven't got it from him?
I'm not a North Brookfield guy.
Oh.
I've got a West Brookfield fish rod.
Oh, okay.
Not a North.
Yeah, now, I've heard the story about the fish rod and stuff, but I...
Stop at Jay's barber shop in here. Nice rod.
Yeah.
Turn of the century.
Yeah?
Anybody know anything about it?
Sure.
Gene, can you talk a little bit about a Massa Walker?
Yeah. How long do you want me to talk?
I know you, Gene.
He was, let me see, a mover and a shaker. He ran up against the, North Brookfield had different political viewpoints.
Really?
Yeah, I find that hard to believe sometimes myself. Amasa Walker ended up on the outs a little bit. He was big into the shoe business, but separated. Big into the peace movement. big into the moving from the churches from across the street
The
to here.
split between this
Yeah,
congregation
yeah.
that created this.
Jeff Fisk has written a great book about
Yeah.
that, and Jeff enlightened me. I haven't really checked it out. I always thought that it was a woman's movement. Amos Walker and a few women bolted from the Congregation Church, come over here because of slavery. And he says he didn't find that. So we had some discussion on it. The women's movement and the black movement were running together at that period of time. And people like Lucy Stone and some of the other people were more interested in the women's movement than they were of the slavery issue, although they ran them together. And I didn't realize that there was so much of a discussion, and I don't know that that's an issue either. I mean, it would take a lot of research, and I don't know if any of the information is there. But anyway, I always thought that Amos Walker was responsible for the split in the church, and I always thought that there was a slavery issue involved. How big or how small, I don't know. I do know that Snell and Batchelor were involved in the Liberation Society to buy the slaves up. But Amos Walker was on the other side of the fence. But he is a heavy hitter because he and his family went on to bigger and better things when they left on Brookfield. In fact, his son was the general. Yeah.
So, Eugene?
Yeah.
Oh.
Isn't it right? Am I right? No.
Yes.
But Francis Walker, yeah.
He headed up two U.S. censuses and was the the president of MIT
Yeah.
before his death in the 1890s. So.
Yeah. Amos printed a lot of books too on economics and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I've always heard.
Yeah.
He was a big into economics.
Oh yeah, Amherst College. Yeah.
You can look at the Dictionary of American Biography at the library next door. It's a long article
Yeah.
on him.
Yeah, heavy hitter. Any other questions? And I haven't really shown you too much about my real passion is the postcards, but you've all seen those slides and stuff. I'm going to put them. I'm threatening to put them on video, but you're welcome to look at it if you wish. Any other questions? Well, thank you for allowing me to give you my insight into what I have and what I've been playing with for the past 30-something years.
Yeah.